The Fulton DeKalb Hospital Authority presents the 4th Annual Health Summit with a theme entitled Violence, America's Challenge. This is a segment from the Town Hall discussion hosted and moderated by Roland Martin. Our panelists are Chairman John Eves, Essence Magazine founder Susan Taylor, Judge Penny Brown Reynolds, Sheriff Ted Jackson, Commissioner Larry Johnson, and Judge Willie Lovett.
This is a summit dealing with violence, not black violence, not white violence, because there are going to be folks who leave here and they might live in communities where it's not majority African American. There may be people listening or watching somewhere else and they may be thinking, this is a black violence conversation, when in fact no, it's an American problem. But to the point you just made in terms of how we think, when I was on Twitter today, I had a brother who was critical of my comment about the officer in South Carolina and how he went after the young girl in the school. And the brother said, we got to deal with these hood rats in our schools. And I immediately said, how did you determine that she was a hood rat? And I think it goes to that in terms of how we even take something and then we internalize that and then we project it out, when she could have simply been having a bad day. Because I had one of those days, I ain't trying to hit nothing from a teacher. And so if we're dealing with this issue of violence, we can talk about what we can do physically in our communities, but isn't this also a matter of dealing with the minds of people, how we perceive things, how we see things? Anyone could jump in on that as well, because that plays a large role in this.
From my perspective, when I look at the term black on black, to me it's irrelevant because it's bias. But what we do when we say black on black, we're really identifying a victim. And whether or not the value of the life of that victim is okay when we say black on black versus just general violence. I think we're devaluing the victim when we say black on black.
You know, I want to say that I think what we don't look at ever is the history. You know, African Americans have been maligned. The violence that's been rendered against us over the centuries is really not known. We have to understand that wherever there is poverty, there's going to be violence. If people don't have the things that they need to live well in the world, they're going to go out there and try to take it. But the ways in which people of African ancestry have always been treated and spoken about, first of all, we had to be seen as inhuman in order to be enslaved. And the reality is that we have not healed from the 250 years plus the additional 150 years of enslavement. There's been no recovery from that, really. Some of us have, and that gulf between middle-class black folks and poor black people has widened. Most of us who grew up in neighborhoods, I'm glad I grew up in Harlem. And in that Harlem, we had everybody. We had doctors and lawyers and single mothers on welfare and the middle class. Everybody was in the mix. And then we know what happened. Heroin came, and those of us who could leave, we left. And we left behind people who could not fend well for themselves. And until we really look at the critical issues of education, there's no way that you're going to be able to earn a living for yourself if you're in a school that doesn't have the resources that schools in the suburbs or in affluent areas have, and the children in those under-resourced schools are measured by the same yardstick as those in the more affluent communities. So you have people who are, and let me just say this, Roland, in disassembled communities with fractured families as a result of the over-incarceration of their parents. Their parents who were victims of the war on drugs. What the war on drugs did was it removed parents from the neighborhood and put them into what is now a for-profit prison system that is built on the backs of black bodies. And in order for it to, if it's tied to Wall Street, has to make money, quarter over quarter, year over year. And black bodies are what? Are the fodder that feed it. And so I'm saying we're going to look at this whole picture today, and we're going to disrupt it. That's why we're here. And this, I have to say that Lisa Flagg, Tommy Dortch. Tommy Dortch is the founding chairman of the National Cares Mentoring Movement. Starting this morning as you did with our civil rights leaders was so the right thing to do, because it really put in perspective that we haven't stood together on any issue for long since the civil rights movement. We have not. We've not sustained a movement. And I think that right now it's the opportune time, given what's happening in the country, and that we're having these kinds of conversations.
You said something that's important, and I'm going to go to you, Sheriff. First of all, there were several different things that you said there, but you talked about healing. You previously have said this, and I want you to tell the audience this, why you started when you were walking down the street speaking to and smiling at African Americans.
Well, let's see now. You know, people don't speak to young black men. And I said, that's not going to happen on my watch. Hi, brother, how you doing? Hello, son. And they always look behind them. You can't be talking to me, because we're so used to not being spoken to. And then I said, well, why aren't you smiling? You're too handsome not to smile. And you see that big, beautiful smile just burst on their faces. I heard somebody say this morning at the early morning session that, you know, these are children. They really are children. And mentoring is what we do. Mentoring works miracles, because it shows young people that we care. I'll tell you what a young Latino said to me when I was visiting the Alameda County Detention Center. The sisters there knew that I was in town, and they asked me if I would come by and speak. And I said, yes, I want to speak to the males and the females. We did it separately. Young Latino stood up and he said, no disrespect, ma'am, but middle-class people don't care about us. I don't even know why you're here. He said, if middle-class people cared about poor Latinos, poor black and brown people, I would not have been going to a school where there was no running water, where there were no doors on the bathroom stalls, where we would come out of the bathrooms after relieving ourselves and not be able to wash our hands and then go into the lunchroom to eat. So don't tell me that middle-class people care about us. These are not the schools, Marvette Brito, that they invite us into as media people. But these are the conditions that our young people are living under, and you treat people in a certain way, and then people begin to behave in that way.
The Fulton DeKalb Hospital Authority thanks you for watching this highlight presentation. We hope you've enjoyed this content. Please share the message and visit our website for new episodes of this series and others.